Today's topic is going to be all about how to do some exercise after you've had a hysterectomy. So we're going to assume a couple of things. I am a pelvic floor physical therapist, but I am not your physical therapist. And so these exercises are going to be designed under the presumption that you have some weight restrictions. It is very typical to have something like not lifting anything heavier than 10 pounds over those first 10 weeks after surgery. So we're going to kind of be thinking along those lines and assuming that those precautions are in place. And even though we have some weight restrictions, we can get back into diaphragmatic breathing. We can start coordinating your breath with engaging your pelvic floor and those deep core muscle system. And so these exercises are going to be designed with those things in mind. So let's get to it. Okay, we're going to move on to the floor to start at the very beginning or the lowest kind of level of these exercises. And I like to take a yoga blanket, and you may not have a yoga blanket at home. If you do, that's fantastic. If not, just a regular blanket will work. I wanted to take just a second and kind of demonstrate what I like to do with it. So I've took the blanket and I folded it together on the ends. And then I'm going to do like a tri-fold. So folding it down the middle there, kind of smoothing out those wrinkles just a little bit. And from there, I'm going to fold it into half. And then I like to take one end of it and fold it up so that I have a bit of like a little couch. So that when I get on the floor to do these exercises, it's going to be much more comfortable on my hips, especially after a surgery. We just want to be careful that we're not too uncomfortable, and you will work up into where you can sit cross-legged on the floor without the blanket, but it's really nice to start here. And so I'm going to just plant my sits bones on the tallest part of this couch, and we're going to start there. I'm going to start with a stretchy band to begin with, and you can start with whichever color that you have. Some brands are a little bit different, so I'm not even going to kind of tell you which color to use, but start with what you have because this exercise is not going to be too terribly intense. So I'm going to sit on my little couch, I'm going to cross my legs, and my hips are just very comfortable, so nothing too strenuous. Now, before we get started with these, let me say that we're coordinating all of these exercises with your breath. So we're working under the assumption that you are somewhat familiar with diaphragmatic breathing and how doing an active exhale will engage your deep core muscles. So if you aren't familiar with that, or if you need just a little bit of a brush up on that, we do have some other YouTube videos where I go into diaphragmatic breathing very extensively, and there are other therapists and other professionals out there that have some good videos on diaphragmatic breathing too. But if you're listening to this video, it might be helpful to kind of hear my perspective because that's exactly how I'm going to do these exercises. Either way, I'm assuming you know a little bit about diaphragmatic. So we're not going to go into that here. We're just going to assume that you're ready to go on those. Okay. So first of all, we're just going to start with some gentle core engagement using a little bit of resistance band on our upper extremities to help facilitate that a little bit. So I'm going to grab my stretchy band. I'm going to leave about 3 to 4 inches in the middle. Arms are straight out. And so I'm going to go up and over with my arms, okay? So I'm going to inhale and then exhale as I bring my arms up, keeping my ribs down because I don't want to pop those ribs up. I want to keep them stacked over my pelvis. And back down on the inhale. Exhale. Straight up and over. And inhale. Nice breathing. Keep that upper chest quiet as you can. Exhale. Then if we bring our elbows down to the side, a little bit of that stretchy band and maybe do one fold over. So I want to keep my wrists with my thumbs up in the air, and I'm going to keep my elbows at my side. And so the motion is going to be external rotation. a little bit of resistance. And I'm not going to move much, but that's the direction I'm pulling. So I'm going to sit up nice and tall, keep my neck and my spine nice and long, ribs stacked over pelvis, and inhale. And then as I exhale, just pulling apart, and that will engage my core. I feel it in my deep core. I feel it in my shoulder blades. Let that air fill up the back as well. Make sure you exhale all the way. You get the maximal contraction of that deep core. Now let's add in a little bit of functional movement for your shoulders. Remember, we're coordinating with breath. We're keeping ribs stacked over pelvis, so no flaring of the rib to make this motion happen. So I'm going to keep the band wrapped around my left hand, place my left hand on my knee. The other band, this time you're going to want to leave a little bit more slack in the band because my arm is going to go up and out. But I'm going to start with both hands on my left knee. And then as I exhale, we're going up and over in a diagonal. Breathe through that arm. Get nice and straight as if you're reaching for somebody that's up and over your right shoulder. Inhale on the way down and exhale. Keeping your spine nice and long, switching sides. So now we're going to put right hand on right knee. A little twist on the band there. Left hand starts out over the right knee as well. Inhale. And then exhale. Up and over. So if you're reaching for something over that left shoulder, breathing with your exercises helps to just sort of set your mindset for the day. So, starting your day out with an exercise like this makes you more body aware. It just is just sort of a reset for your breath and for your core. So it's nice to just start your day out with something very foundational. I'm not even going to call it simple, although it might seem simple. It's very foundational and it will help you through the rest of your day. So now we'll move to something that's just would be the next progression in your rehab. Now you're going to join me on the floor for our next progression of the core and pelvic floor exercises. So I'm going to use my yoga blanket again just for a little bit of support for the head. If you're comfortable with laying on the floor without that, absolutely not a must, but if you'd like, you could do that for just a little bit of neck support, nothing too thick under your head. So when we start this exercise, we want to think about engaging that deepest core, and this is going to be a little bit more challenging than what we were doing previously, where we were sitting up cross-legged on our little blanket couch that we made. So for this, you're going to need a yoga block, a ball. Even a thick pillow might work, and we're going to put that right between our knees. And again, we're still coordinating exercises with our breath. So to be a nice inhale, good rib expansion. And then on the exhale, we're going to squeeze the block first. And as we continue to exhale, all the way to the end of the exhale until you can feel your back start to flatten just a little bit. You can also feel your tailbone curve up. So that whole pelvis is tilting backwards so that it feels flatter on the floor and your tailbone feels like it just curled up a little bit. That's how you know you are in posterior pelvic tilt. And that deepest core muscle, that transverse abdominis, helps us to accomplish that with that exhale. So I'm going to do that again just as a reset. Inhale, exhale, squeeze. My back's a little flatter, my tailbone up. For these, we're going to go through the exhale, squeeze, 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 squeeze. Hold for 5 seconds and relax. Then we're going to repeat. And just as a reminder, you want your inhales and your exhales to be slow and steady. Our goal is to be about 5 seconds through the inhale, 5 to 6 seconds on the exhale, so that you get maximal engagement. And once you do 5 to 10 repetitions of those, we're going to move into the next progression. With this one, we're going to continue to engage that core with our exhale. We're using that nice strong exhale. Back is flat, tailbone is curved out, and we're going to let left knee fall to the outside while monitoring my pelvis. So I don't want my pelvis to rock and lose control. Inhale, exhale. Reset that core, building both strength and endurance. Let right knee fall, but don't let your pelvis wobble. And sometimes that's pretty challenging, especially after you've gone through a surgical procedure. That core can feel quite disconnected. Nice, slow, controlled movements. Definitely think quality versus quantity with these kind of core retraining exercises. Inhale, exhale, left knee fall out. We'll go ahead and do the right knee. And so for repetitions, you want to start with 5 to 10, making it really good quality. And then you can increase those sets, right? So you could do 5 to 10 with 1 set, 5 to 10 with 2 sets. So you just progress, being able to do a lot more, making sure that you get good control at the pelvis. The next progression of this exercise is, again, we're going to continue with that exhale to engage the core, flat back, tailbone up. This time we're going to lift that foot off of the ground. Sometimes that can be challenging. So if you, without core engagement, if that TA is not doing its job, when I lift my left foot, my right pelvis might tilt this way to compensate. So that's what I'm monitoring. I want to make sure that my pelvis is able to stabilize when I lift my left foot. So inhale, exhale, flat back, tailbone up as I lift that left foot off of the ground, making sure that that right hip stays stabilized. Bring it straight back down, no wobbling. Reset. This time I'm lifting my right foot, monitoring my left pelvis, making sure that I don't lose control. And sometimes this is challenging. Left foot. Monitor your ability to keep that pelvis in position. I promise you that this can be harder than it looks. Don't let that pelvis wobble. Build in really good control. So we did 3 progressions of the core exercise, lying on the floor with our knees up in the air. Now we're going to take it up just a notch and make these exercises a little bit more functional. We've gotten over those first few weeks of surgery, so we're going to take our exercises from just lying on the floor to making them more functional, because at this point in your rehab and recovery, you're doing more functional things. So you are probably, giving yourself a shower. You are definitely getting on and off the toilet, probably doing some light housework, maybe cooking a meal. And so you're doing a little bit of bending and a lot of twisting and moving and things like that. So we want to prepare your body for that as well. So we're going to start with a chair here just to provide a little bit of stability as we go through these exercises. So the first thing that I recommend doing is some toe raises, or heel raises rather, and we're going to coordinate that with our breath. So if I turn to the side here, we want to think about stacking our ribs over our pelvis, a little bit of a pelvis tilt there, so we're not too flared forward. So if I just bring my pelvis back a little bit, now my ribs are stacked more over my pelvis. So we want to double check that before we get going. Then I'm just going to turn toward the camera so that you can see what I'm doing. I'm not looking for this to be a balance challenge, so certainly have something close by like a chair. And then we're going to inhale, toes up, exhale, toes down. Notice what I didn't do. I didn't go up on my toes and just fall back down on my heel. We're going to build in some control so that we get more core strengthening and more strengthening for your legs as well. Nice eccentric control. So we're going up on our toes on the inhale and then control that lowering. Very functional movement here. We want to do 10 to 15 repetitions of this. Start out with 1 set and then build on that so that you get 2 sets of 15, 3 sets of 15 as you start to feel stronger. Now that you've mastered that, let's build in a little bit of hinging squatting movement. So we're going to face the chair so you can have that if you need it. Again, a little bit of an exhale, bring that pelvis back. This time we're going to spread our feet about shoulder width apart, chair out in front, and then we're going to move into a hinge. So a hinge happens at the hips. We want to take our bottom out as if we're sitting in a chair, trying to keep that pelvis and ribs stacked over each other. Inhale on the way down. Exhale as you push back to standing. So that's inhale and exhale. Spine nice and long, ribs stacked over pelvis, double check. We're just building some really good motor patterns as we bring the core and the pelvic floor back on board with that whole system. Again, we want a few higher repetitions with this movement. So start with 10 to 15 repetitions, 1 set, and then increase the sets so that you have 2 sets of 15, 3 sets of 15. The last one, we'll add in a third one with this one, is to build in strength for that single leg stand. Keep the chair handy again, because it's not a balance challenge necessarily, although it will help to strengthen your balance. But we want to keep that handy. Stack your ribs over your pelvis, so nice exhale, engage that core. We're going to shift our weight I'm going to start with my left foot, so I'm shifting my weight to the left just slightly, and I'm going to take my right leg out to the side, keeping my toes pointed forward and back. So inhale and exhale. All three of these actually are good to do in front of a mirror, because then you can monitor your posture, you can monitor your rib position. It's really hard to have that feedback unless you've got something to watch and to monitor, because you might think you're doing a pretty good job until you take a look at yourself and see what you're actually doing. I'm just going to take the chair to the other side, and then straight, shifting my weight to my right foot, unweight that left. Shift your weight to the right. Inhale as you take your foot out. Exhale. Really lengthen through that leg that you're standing on. It's really easy to lose that connection. That's why I like to do it in front of a mirror, so that you can see some of the areas that you really need to work on. And most of us need a little strengthening for single leg balance, because we just don't spend enough time doing it. Good inhales, good exhales. That's the key to bringing in that deepest core system and getting some good pelvic. So I've provided you here 3 phases of rehab recovery after a hysterectomy, starting with lower level activities and gradually working up to some more higher functional activities. But the main goal is to restore both your breath and your core and pelvic floor, so that they can work together to build that foundation as you recover from your surgery and as you start to work toward higher level activities, whether that looks like returning to just household activities or work activities, or even maybe some higher level exercises and that you would like to do. We have to start with these foundational pieces in order to be successful. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to post those below the video. If you're enjoying these videos, please like and subscribe to our channel. And then feel free to share it with anybody that might benefit from some of these tips in rehab and recovery.